A dramatic Shakespearean total lunar eclipse in Virgo. Beware the Ides of March. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader. In this video, I'm going to talk about the March 14th total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo and all of the aspects around it and what it means on a personal level for people, who it's going to affect the most, as well as what it means for the collective. But first, I want to say, if you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you're following astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole, but I'm only going to post the first 3 minutes on Instagram. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane Nicole. Please find me there. There will be a link in my profile bio at astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole to get to the YouTube channel and watch the whole video. If you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me in the algorithm and to grow my channel, my business, and my community. Puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. And again, if you want to book a reading with me, there will be a link in the description of the YouTube, and there will be a link in the profile bio of the Instagram, astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. And now, without further ado, I'm going to get into the interpretation of the total lunar eclipse in Virgo on Friday, March 14th at 2:54 a.m. Washington, D.C. East Coast time. It's actually happening 11:54 p.m. March 13th in Los Angeles, where I am. So almost midnight, but basically most places in the world, March 14th. So, let's call it that. The eclipse energy is going to be happening for that whole, 13th to 15th period, which, the 15th is technically the Ides of March. And so it's interesting that this very dramatic full moon is actually lining up with that date, that eclipse this year. And basically we're talking about the Virgo Pisces axis. I want to start with generalities and get more and more specific as I go, because I think that that's a better way to organize the information, to process it for you, my beloved audience, people watching. Thank you. I appreciate you. But yeah, so in general, eclipses are, lunar eclipses are always the full moon, and it's the Earth's shadow covering the moon, and so the light of the sun is blocked. And so since ancient times, that has had a divinatory meaning of bringing up the shadow in people, in circumstances, and situations. Ancients felt that we should stay inside during eclipses. Don't go outside, don't drink the eclipse water, all that kind of stuff. In modern times, sometimes people watch the eclipses. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But this is a south node eclipse because it's next to the south node, which is in Virgo. The eclipse is happening at 23 degrees 57 minutes Virgo. That's where the moon is. The lunar eclipse is 4 degrees. The south node of Virgo is at 27 degrees. So the south node is the tail of the dragon. The north node is the head of the dragon. The nodes of fate, they're always on an axis together. They have to do with destiny. They have to do with fate. They have to do with past lives and future lives, not just what's happening in this little incarnation. But within this incarnation, we are working on that path you know, from our south node to our north node. And we have our personal nodal axis in our birth charts. And then we have the collective nodal transits that we're going through as humanity at any given time in history. And that's what this particular lunar eclipse is about. And it's the nodes will be on any one given axis for a year and a half. So the nodes of fate entered the Pisces Virgo axis January 11th. They will be there through July of 2026. And so over that year and a half, humanity has very important karmic, fated experiences, situations, lessons around the Virgo Pisces axis. And so the Virgo Pisces axis, among other things, is the axis of health. That's one of the big things. It's the axis of, you know, materialism versus spirituality. It's the axis of control versus chaos, you know, order versus chaos. It's the axis of, you know, like cleanliness and order versus messiness. You know, it's the axis of service and sacrifice. It's the axis of vision versus craft. It's the axis of the dream versus reality. And so as the full moon happens next to the south node, this full moon, because it's an eclipse, is likely to be bringing up the shadow around a lot of these topics that I just mentioned. And so when the shadow comes up, it can be shocking to ourselves or others. It could be you know, and so the full moon, yeah, the shadow. And this full moon happens to be trine Uranus. Uranus is the disruptor. Uranus always throws a curveball, brings a plot twist, brings like a sudden, unexpected twist of events. This looks beneficial because it's a trine. So, you know, it looks like there's sudden expansion in some material way that this lunar eclipse is bringing, especially to people who have planets in any of the earth signs around 22 to 25 degrees. If you have any planets at 22 to 25 degrees Capricorn, this is a really, really fortunate lunar eclipse. And it's so weird because it's dark yet fortunate. So I'd be very interested in knowing how that's panning out for people. But so I want to make sure that I've covered the general. I've talked about the nodes of fate. They're on an axis with each other. The south node is the tail of the dragon. The north node is the head of the dragon. The south node known as Ketu. The north node known as Rahu. The south node is always a point of elimination, of exit, of letting go, of saying goodbye. And so the south node in Virgo is definitely about letting go, saying goodbye, exit points of Virgo things. So the best of that is, you know, letting go of control, letting go of worry, letting go of anxiety. You know, but it's tough for a lot of people because at the same time, there is a lack of order. There are a lot of facts that are being lost, details being lost in the shuffle. Things are messy, things are scrambled, things are out of order right now. It's a chaotic time, you know, in the world, and this lunar eclipse is going to be personal to you if you have any planets, you know, sun, moon, rising in Virgo, sun, moon, rising in Gemini, because this is a Mercury ruled full moon eclipse, but also sun, moon, rising in Aries, because the ruler of the full moon, Mercury, is in Aries, stationing to go retrograde as the full moon happens. So the fact that the moon's ruler is stationing, it's like there are things that are being illuminated There are shocking twists of fate and creating probably a new path to the future, expansion of some kind. There may be actual material gifts that are coming. But there's also a sense of, there's some passionate exchange of ideas and words. And, you know, there's a lot of endings that are happening. You know, in our charts, there's 2 houses where endings can be happening, and 1 house that's trying to get a new beginning off the ground, but kind of seems to be getting pulled into still tying up some things from the past before this new life can completely begin. And we've been straddling the old world and the new world since 2020. I mean, the old world really started crumbling right beneath our feet in 2020. And now, you know, we've kind of been in the birth canal through, you know, I mean, the end of 2020, and you know, there was the Jupiter Saturn great conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius, kind of starting to plant the seeds of this new Aquarian era, you know, ahead of Pluto moving in even. But now Pluto's in. It's like now we're in this Aquarian era, and there are still these past things that are being, you know, tied up, held on to. And this Virgo lunar eclipse is illuminating where there is clutter in our minds, hearts, closet, drawer, house, trunk of the car, wherever the clutter is, spirit, like, and it's a time to declutter and clear out. You know, the Virgo total lunar eclipse is great for, you know, purging, detoxing, cleansing, weeding, pruning, you know, editing. All of those Virgo words are still good under this full moon. But we have to be doing things. We have to be doing our tasks and going through just to do it. We can't be hung up on control right now, because that is not going to work. We all very likely have some area in our life where there's something we are trying to hold on to too tight, and we need to let go of control. And that's what this Virgo South Node is about. That's a 1.5 years kind of lesson, but it's really being highlighted right now at this lunar eclipse on March 14th. And then we will be in an eclipse portal from March 14th till March 29th, the Aries solar eclipse. And we're straddling 2 axes. So that, you know, we're straddling the new Virgo Pisces axis that I've been talking about, that we're launching into a new 1.5 years, 2-year storyline on. And then we're closing up on the Aries Libra axis that we've been on for the past 1.5 years, since July of 2023. And so it's this overlapping of endings and beginnings, and it's this whirlpool because there is so much going on in the Pisces sector of our charts. And so the South Node and the full moon are there together, but then they're opposing essentially Saturn, the Sun, the North Node, and Neptune. So there are all of these like oppositional forces. There's a lot of oppositional tension present in this lunar eclipse, again, on the Virgo Pisces axis. So we're talking about the axis of health, we're talking about the axis of service and philanthropy, we're talking about the axis of craft and art, of reality and the dream, of order and chaos. And we're needing to, you know, obviously integrate these opposites, but it's not easy right now. But that's the overall lesson in the journey that we're on over the next year and a half of the eclipses being on this axis. And so this is just the very first one. So we probably don't feel like we've aced it yet. Maybe some of us are naturally, you know, coded for this. But at the same time, as this eclipse, 2 days before, the sun was in the exact opposition to Saturn, and it's still present. I mean, the sun was in the exact conjunction to Saturn, and it's still present in this full moon chart. And that Sun-Saturn conjunction, it's a once-a-year conjunction. It can bring the death of solar figures. It can bring a maturation process around Piscean themes. So, you know, that can be medicine, doctors, healers. It can be, you know, drummers, painters, you know, photographers, filmmakers. It can be gurus, spiritual leaders, you know, people who are Pisces. Anyway, a maturation process. This has to do with, you know, it can bring mastery for some people, but it can also bring the death of the master, you know. It's heavy energy, heavy emotional, kind of melancholy, serious energy. It can be the death of a huge spiritual leader. I was very happy to see that the Pope is doing better in health, because it definitely was looking like, when I was looking at this astrology and seeing him being sick, that this was definitely a potential exit point for him. But it looks like he's not done yet. So good for you, Francis. Hang on in there. But yeah, so this is all in this lunar eclipse chart. And you know, also the leader, the ruler of the full moon, you know, and by the way, a lunar eclipse is, full moons and lunar eclipses, you'll hear astrologers use the tagline, it's a full moon on steroids. And that's because it's just a very strengthened full moon. And full moons always bring heightened emotions in people. For people who deal with mental illness, they usually bring more of attention in that realm as well. Full moons, yeah, they just bring more energy. This full moon being ruled by Mercury, who's stationing to go retrograde in Aries. You know, this can be fighting words, you know, this can be argumentative. It can just be passionate discourse and passionate exchange of ideas. That Mercury-Venus combo looks like, you know, revolutionary poets. And it can look like, you know, it can be a feisty exchange between lovers with that, you know, underlying passion. There's many different ways that it can present, but that's in the storyline of the lunar eclipse. Mercury and Venus, they're together, and Venus has already started going retrograde in Aries, and Mercury is getting ready to go retrograde in Aries. So this lunar eclipse is very personal to Aries, people who have planets at anywhere from, you know, 5 to 11 Aries, but especially 7 and 9 Aries. You know, that's where they are at the eclipse. They just had their meeting on the day that I'm recording this video, actually, March 11th. Mercury and Venus had the exact conjunction, but they're still close enough in the eclipse chart. And so, you know, astrology is a holistic art. You have to take the whole sky into consideration. And then Mars in Cancer is the boss of Mercury. So there's this backdrop of this kind of depressed, debilitated Mars in Cancer, who is, you know, he's kind of sextile the moon. So, I mean, I think he's working with the energy of the moon, but there's been a lot of heavy family stuff going on for people, a lot of heavy ancestry stuff, homeland stuff, you know, stuff around privacy and safety and security. People are dealing with all of these kinds of things. For some people, there's, you know, been surgeries, tough surgeries that they're dealing with, you know, cancer, and, you know, all kinds of things that people have been dealing with during the Mars and Cancer storyline that's been going on. And luckily Mars is now going forward, and he is sextile this lunar eclipse. And so it's weird because it's like these dark, heavy energies, but they're working together in really fertile ways to be able to create and grow for the future. But that does bring me to another thing that I think about when I see this full moon conjunct the south node. There is something about the harvest, and there is something about the food. It's like there's a shortage in the harvest, or maybe there's a shortage of farmers. It looks like there's a shortage of essential workers. Virgo rules essential workers. And so it looks like this moon may be illuminating that there is a shortage of, you know, nurses, veterinarians, farmers, you know, medical workers. It looks like the loss of some medical systems. And it looks like the loss of some important organizational systems, social service systems, health systems. And then, you know, it looks like there's also some eating disorder energy that might be in people's personal chart, like if Virgo rising or Virgo in the 6th house. That Virgo south node can bring up anorexia, bulimia. But for the collective, it can bring up a food shortage of some kind, a shortage in the harvest, a shortage of medical supplies, a shortage of medical facilities, you know, these things. And it's illuminating, you know, again, eclipses a lot of times have to do with the leadership too, because the sun is the leader. And so, you know, this can bring, I mean, the leader is next to the sun, is next to the north node. So you see these leaders are gaining all of this power, and they're hungry and hungrier for even more and more power. And it appears that it's creating these moral dilemmas. This is in the cosmos. This is all this Pisces energy I'm looking at. And, you know, there's some deception going on. There's some smoke and mirrors going on. But there's also a lot of beauty that's going on in the world that is also reflected here. You know, there are artists creating beautiful things. There are people who are very caring, loving, empathetic, philanthropic people who are helping the world. You know, there are, you know, I'm seeing like Doctors Without Borders who are trying to help people who are sick around the world. And, you know, but there's a call to action I'm seeing for women's rights, and for children's rights in the DC chart. There's a lot going on in the DC chart about water, and you know, Trump is building these ships, seems like to prepare for a war, but there's all this Pisces energy, so it's about these bodies of water. He's taking over bodies of water. He's building ships, you know, and this is in the world chart too, this Pisces energy. There's definitely something going on with bodies of water, and I mean, some of it we've seen, and some of it, like, it might be behind the scenes still, but like, oh gosh, did I pull down that chart? I wanted to look at just the world's lunar eclipse chart. Anyway, there's all this stuff about water, and I'm just like, you know, I was thinking about it and how like they've figured out how to chop up and own all of the land, but they haven't figured out how to chop up and own all of the water yet. And what if they started trying to do that, figuring out how to separate and own the bodies of water? Yeah, wouldn't that be crazy? That's what this looks like in this chart. Like, that's the type of shit they're gonna start doing. Anyway, when I look at, yeah, so these are just all the things that are kind of going on right now with this Virgo lunar eclipse. It's, you know, eclipses bring illumination, and they bring, full moons bring illumination and culmination. And so an eclipse, being a full moon on steroids, it's going to be bringing big endings, and it's going to be bringing, you know, major things to light. And again, there is such big ending energy because this is a South Node eclipse. So the South Node is always letting go, exit points, goodbye, releasing. But then the pile up in Pisces, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So Pisces is so much about endings and finales and closures and, you know, goodbyes. And so there's that. And so the Pisces and Virgo axis is like both of those areas of our charts and of our lives are having endings, having releases, having goodbyes, having letting goes. And then the Aries part is trying to get going, but seems to be getting pulled into the tide of, you know, the old world a little bit before moving forward. And so that's kind of the energy of what's going on right now with this eclipse. And, you know, I think one of the things about the Pisces Virgo axis too is like letting go of materialism and moving more towards a spiritually based existence. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that are taking us through that during this year and a half of the nodes being on the Pisces Virgo axis. But yeah, the sickness stuff is real. I mean, I do think that, you know, one of the things that this Pisces Virgo axis is bringing along with it, or reflecting rather, is a public health crisis of some kind. Pisces rules the feet, Pisces rules the lymphatic system. Pisces, I think, has a lot to do with like the immune system and the fluids in the body. And then Virgo has a lot to do with the nervous system. Virgo has to do with the small intestines. You know, and Virgo has a lot to do with mental health and the mind-body connection, because Virgo is anxiety and worry. You know, Virgo is a mental sign and a physical sign at the same time. And so there's a lot of lessons there for us as humanity about that mind-body connection and health and how important that is. You can't just take care of one and not the other. It's a package deal. And so a lot of stuff like that is being illuminated under this full moon. And then again, yes, we're in the eclipse portal until the Aries the Aries solar eclipse, Aries new moon solar eclipse on March 29th. So the eclipse portal is deep, because when we're in the eclipse portal, there are a lot of things that are obscured from view. And this is even further emphasized by the Saturn, Sun, North Node, Neptune pile up in Pisces, which is creating a fog. So we have to understand right now that where we are in life, everything that's going on around us, we can't see everything. Everything is not in our view. It's like driving through or flying through a very thick fog. And it's not that you don't go, or, you know, but you know, you have to drive carefully. You have to use your fog lights. You have to drive slower than you might used to. You might rely on other tools or instruments than when you're just driving on a sunny day. It's like that kind of a thing. Like, there's a lot of fog. There's a lot obscured from view right now. In some cases, there's outright deception and lies that are happening. In other cases, there's just vagueness, lack of clarity, confusion, details being lost in the shuffle. these kinds of things, you know, all of this is happening under this eclipse and through the eclipse portal for the 2 weeks leading up to the solar eclipse of March 29th. And oftentimes, and again, it absolutely depends on your own personal astrology, but oftentimes we are in a position where we are making fated choices or fated decisions without even realizing it during the eclipse portal, that will have far-reaching consequences over the next 9 years, over the next 18 years, over the next 6 months. You know, there's always different cycles being generated, you know, at any one given period. But yeah, so this is this lunar eclipse is a culminating point around health issues, around service issues, around control issues, around food and eating issues, you know, health and fitness habits, the daily routine. You know, a lot of people's daily routine is going to be completely shifting over the next year and a half. We're also in the year of the snake, plus the South Node in Virgo. There's like a shedding of the skin. And this is, again, this is more personal to people who are Virgo Sun, Moon, or Rising, or Gemini Sun, Moon, or Rising. Because you are a Mercury-ruled person. This is a Mercury-ruled eclipse. And even more personal if you have any Sun, Moon, or Rising, or midheaven anywhere from 22 to 27, you know, Virgo or Gemini. And again, Aries, if you have anything from 5 to 10. Aries, you know, there's a lot of personal stuff happening. So it's hitting different people in different ways. It's all geometry, and it's all like what angle we're coming at it from, you know, and we all have different angles and shapes and sizes, and that's what makes the world such a beautiful place. But, yeah, that's what's happening. And I think I said a lot of general things about the nodes of fate. I think I said a lot of general things about full moons, eclipses. I talked a bit about the eclipse portal and what it means to be in an eclipse portal. Eclipse portals are always also very magical moments to jump timelines into different versions of ourselves and different dimensions of reality. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, contact me for a reading, because you can look at where the portal is opening up in your chart and how you can jump to a different timeline within that portal. So eclipse portals are very magical, alchemical moments, you know, when we're aware of them and we're wielding the energy proactively. You know, that's where astrology comes in so handy. And yeah, I love that trine to Uranus. There's like material gifts, unexpected material gifts. Yeah, we're being pulled towards deeper purpose and spirituality and not being as materialistic of beings. That's the best case scenario anyway. And what else did I want to say? Yeah, letting go of criticism. This Virgo full moon, the shadow of Virgo is perfectionism, overanalyzing, overthinking, critiquing, you know, all of that stuff that could come up in this full moon, and it will, if it does, it's likely to wreak havoc. So you want to kind of have awareness around those skills. We want to let go of those skills. We want to give them to the full moon, or else the full moon may bring an event where we lose something else as a result of not being able to, you know, kind of let go of that Virgo criticism or worry or perfectionism or negativity, you know. Yeah, I think that I said a lot of I think I said a lot of what needs to be said here. I just want to make sure I didn't leave out anything. But I think I touched on a lot of the things that I wanted to touch on. You know, in the body, Pisces rules the feet, the lymphatic system. I talked about that. So this is a great time to, you know, in the eclipse portal, to be taking care of our feet, reflexology, acupuncture, foot massages, pedicures, walking on the earth, walking along the beach and water. You know, these are all really good things. And of course, with the Virgo stuff, anything to take care of our nervous system, you know, and properly nourishing ourselves. It is the eclipse moon, and I'm going to leave you with one card. And I do want to say that you know, astrology works best when you work one-on-one with an astrologer, and I would love to read for you one-on-one. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. That is my forte. I will put a link in the description to book a reading with me on my website, ElianeNicole.com. I will also put an email to book a reading with me. And if you would like to thank me for this video by buying me a coffee or a tea or a croissant, I will also put a link to my Venmo to give me a donation. And now I will leave you with, the Two of Cups. This is a sweet card for love and romance and union, creative collaboration, heart-to-heart connections. So, yeah, I guess that's one of the things that maybe I didn't talk about enough with this full moon, is that I feel like it is a very creative, very artistic full moon. You know, anytime you get a full moon in Virgo, it's Mercury ruled. So Mercury is the writer. So it's definitely a writer's full moon. When you're talking about that pile up in Pisces with the sun and the North Node and Neptune and Saturn, you know, this is poetry, this is songwriting, this is filmmaking, painting, photography, this is, you know, this is dance, this is, you know, just a really, you know, there's a lot of mysticism and, you know, psychic ability and channeling ability. And so there's a lot of beauty to work with in the energies of this full moon for creative people, especially writers and people who work with images. But Pisces is also very musical. And, you know, and then there's, you know, because it does bring up health issues, it also brings up healing issues and how do we heal. And so in that respect, it can also be a very healing full moon. But I do think that it is shedding the light on some public health issues that that we're going to be dealing with as a collective for, you know, the next year and a half or so, that are going to be quite concerning and coming to the forefront, you know. But there's also, you know, just that element of cultivating deeper faith and spirituality, and I love that aspect of it. And sometimes doing that comes from darker times or circumstances, for better or for worse. And so that might be why the full moon alignment is looking like this. But, you know, I know that there's a lot that I see going on in the American chart, but I don't want to make this video any longer, so I'm going to stop here. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful lunar eclipse in Virgo. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a separate chart on the USA's lunar eclipse. Somebody already told me they want me to do an LA reading, so I'm putting that together with LA's birth chart and some little history of the country, the city, and kind of what's going on now. So that's to come. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. again, like, comment, share, help me out, and stay tuned. I will be back with more content very soon.